The Octopus, a DMT trip report posted by the user Blackclow to the DMT Nexus on the 2nd of November 2006. Hey guys, I've found this rather intense DMT trip report from another forum. It's pretty wild. I packed the pipe with weed, and then on the dope, I placed with my brother's miniature pocket knife blade what I thought to be a little bit of the brown crystally goo, about 3 match heads worth. I torched carefully above the cone and sucked for all it was worth. Firstly, before anything, I noticed that my head had disappeared. Well, rather it was more like it no longer had boundaries as such. Then, the ringing in my ears and the hideous rush of a vascular headache occurred. The ringing deepened and became richer, louder. Then, a great bell tolled. Ask not for whom it tolls. The terrified attempt to calm myself failed miserably, as the vibration shattered me into an infinitum. I was still sitting there in the garden, so I knew I could go further. Lacking bodily coordination, I dumped roughly half of what I had left on the foil. I had been told it was a gram, the whole thing. Put this on a similar cone to the first, and repeated the torching. This time, because I could no longer tell if I possessed lungs, I must have pulled down the whopper of a hit, and what happened next is very hard to describe. The fear went up 1,000 notches. My knuckles, if I still had them, would have certainly been white, like the light that was consuming my whole body. Blazing white light all around. Fortunately, the headache subsided with the second hit, and I felt ready to extend my senses to feel where I was and what was happening. I remembered the veil, like rubber, or the surface of jelly stretched in front of me. There were no geometric patterns, a few weird fractals burnt like green fire from every surface I could see in the garden. I was in 2 places at once. It was so odd. And there was this veil like the surface of some deep pond before me. Then, something moved beyond it. Was that some sort of dorsal fin? I leaned forward to touch the surface of the membrane, and then what happened next, I swear, nearly killed me from its sheer bizarrity. From behind the white chair, or was it from inside it, a creature emerged. It was not a happy, smiley elf. To tell you the truth, I will not describe what I saw. It had innumerable tentacles. It was like a cross between some weird octopus or jellyfish. And the eyes. Oh my god, the eyes. I froze on the spot thinking, shit, this is it. I've really gone and done it now. Fucking toast. I never believed. I really should have believed. And now I'm at the mercy of something much, much bigger and complex, and clever, and definitely more malevolent than myself. I asked it its name, although I wish I had not asked. Its voice utterly destroyed me. It was like being caught in a storm of psychic noise, a whirlwind of deadly electrical shrapnel. I think I shuddered and started to drool uncontrollably at this point. I think I also urinated in my jeans. With its innumerable eyes, it gazed at me steady and extended a tendril. At that same moment, it fired a beam of light directly between and above my eyes. The alien laser was pinkish green. It hurt. I begged it to stop. I whimpered, "Please stop. You're hurting me. I'm just fragile. Please be careful. I'm sentient as well. I mean you no harm." It seemed to consider what I had to say for a brief moment. The laser was withdrawn, but the tendrils, of which there were more now, still held me in place. I was trying to make out details of its shape or structure, but the closer I looked, the more it slipped away from me. It seemed to tell me in some weird non-verbal fashion not to struggle and to stop making noise with my eyes. I personally took this to mean, be calm, do not struggle, clear your head, see, but do not look. It then became a little clearer. It seemed to be cloaked in some way. Some sort of organic hood and covering was wrapped around it. Some sort of armour or protection. The tentacles had no substance as we know it, and the eyes, well, they were the most awe-inspiring and terrifying things I have ever beheld. They defied counting. They defied reason. This whole thing was too much, and I felt myself losing my mind. I just lost it. Gone. I can't recall all that much after this, except it rifling through my mind like it were a chest of drawers. Some rewiring took place. An awesome amount was uploaded to my cortex, and a sensation not unlike being at the dentist while being semi-conscious from nitrous. This sense of voices telling you it'll be all over soon, and that you've done really well. Really well. Hush, hush now. Then, when I was able, and the pinkish-greenish light was withdrawn, I felt I could once again move. The creature had split into three, or maybe it had always been three, and there were several smaller blobs that were crawling around my feet. They seemed to be trying to sneak up on me. Fuck that, I thought, and kept a close eye on them, lest they molest me like their larger, scarier accomplice. It was at this point that I realised that the blobs were not the same as the other creature or creatures. They were entirely different, extremely tricky and fast-moving. One of them crawled up my leg and sat on my knee. Frankly, I was too horrified and fascinated to stop it. I noticed it had a little hat. It had little stripy white and green trousers as well, and pointy, curly shoes. But at this point, let's just say I wasn't at home anymore. They seemed friendly enough, and I let them crawl inside my nose and ears and chest and legs and, well, whatever it was they wanted to enter. Eventually, it all faded, and further attempts to enter the world were prohibited. It seemed I'd been barred for now. Just a headache and a sensation of, no. Okay, just typing that out has made me feel all weird, and I need a stiff drink after that. Thank you, and good night. Oh, but before I go, I must say that, no, I had not read many DMT trip reports prior to this. This is what I truly find disturbing about it all. Frankly, I do not require another's belief that this really happened to me. I can barely get my head around it myself. Why elves? Why elves, damn it? And what's with the Philip K. Dick type entity? I swear, I had not been exposed to those particular stories before this experience. What really intrigues me about this trip report is that over the years I've seen people encounter this octopus entity, again, whether it's real or not, hallucination, a real being occupying some other dimension, whatever. At the end of the day, people have experienced this, and there's so many other people out there on the internet who've talked about similar experiences, or, octopus-type beings, which is interesting because obviously in the human physical reality, octopi are some of the most intelligent animals going. So there's a really interesting post on the Psychonauts subreddit 5 years ago by that one guy, 0311, who says, I recently met an octopus entity during a mushroom trip, as anyone else, and it does share some similarities to the way that it went down in this report, although a bit more positive and less malevolent. So he took 4 grams of magic mushies and says that the octopus did not speak, but communicated in a way that I still understood. It said, welcome. Please enjoy this experience with me. We are all vibrations, and not every vibration gets a body. You have a body, and you must take care of us. The purpose of life is to experience reality through sensory organs. Pleasure, pain, and everything in between is good. You're going to miss your body when it dies, so enjoy it while you have it. It also said, reproduction is important because we need more bodies to bond with so that we can experience them. It also said, I am the universe, and I am you, and you are me. Then there was a lot of spoken tongues I didn't understand. One word that kept repeating was Yibra. What's interesting about this post is more so the top comment on it by Dr. John, who says, when I did DMT, I met an octopus as well. When the breakthrough came, it was like someone pulled the plug out of the bathtub of reality. Everything collapsed into the middle of the room, and I felt some sort of being guide my spirit into this pod. When I was inside, it took off at insane speeds. I felt like the pod wasn't pressurized for a human, because I was extremely hot and I felt crushed by the speed. I was flying through all of these orange fractals that I couldn't understand. But eventually I came out of it and realised I wasn't the only being travelling in a pod. There were pods everywhere. And the orange was this intergalactic ally huge octopus. I don't know what he's trying to say there. That was using its tentacles to throw us through these invisible tubes. Last time I did a sensory deprivation float on LSD, I had tentacles coming out of my back like an angel's wings. I think it's important not to get too carried away with these entity contact experiences. Obviously they're extremely profound and can bestow some deep insights into the universe, reality and your life that have a lot of credence to them. But sometimes I think psychonauts get a bit lost in the, this entity occupies the 7th dimensional space and is using DMT to communicate with people via the physical reality and other stuff like that, which I'm not even saying that's not true. I'm just saying that sometimes I think we get a bit lost in that sort of explanation for what's going on. And this guy, I think, puts it into perspective. Mac Brett, on the same post, he says, your subconscious contains countless recollections of images, concepts, and experiences. Under the influence of psychedelics, random elements percolate to the surface. Percolator.
There was a fish in the percolator.
And it is the brain's natural tendency to attempt to knit these things, along with your immediate sensory input, into some form of coherent theme. The results will vary from surprising, amusing, profound, to even terrifying. You can often come away with a story that makes some sort of sense. Some people are convinced that they have been contacted by supernatural spirits. Others treat these experiences as they would interpret dreams. There may in fact be some wisdom to be gleaned, but one should not assume that they are receiving mandatory directives from external agents or higher intelligences. Because they are so vivid, one can become deluded into reading more significance into these experiences than is due. Funnily enough, the only reply to this comment is, you have no idea what you're talking about. Take 5 grams of shrooms and make a comment later. That just epitomizes the hubris of some psychonauts. Whether what that guy Mac Brett said is the case or not, I mean, I personally don't know, so I'm not going to say I know, or because I don't really have an opinion, because I don't think there's enough. I don't know, not proof, not evidence, but I personally don't have enough experience to say. I've never experienced an octopus entity or had these entity contacts like people describe, so I cannot personally say what is actually going on, but I do believe that people actually have this experience. It's just that people just sort of lose themselves in the semantics and try to say like, oh well, this is actually what's going on, it's made of this substance, or it's not made of some substance, it's imaginary, it's consciousness, it's an actual being, it's an energy being, it's just chemicals in the brain. And people get a bit lost talking about this, when I really think the most interesting part about these entity experiences is how it affects the person themselves, affects the future of their life, their understanding of reality, like their belief in God, consciousness, energy, materialism, etc. Another guy called Nicky Deliciousness puts, I have also met and communicated with said entity, and this is interesting. This is an interesting comment because it's in sort of the polar opposite to what the other guy said. In my belief, this is a physical representation of cosmic consciousness, the collective of all conscious experiences. From my conversations, all telepathic, non-auditory communication, It is my understanding that in the fifth dimension outside time, the collection of consciousnesses amasses itself into a singular organism, where every consciousness had sway on the opinion of the whole. This organism is what controls evolution. All souls are contained in this organism's cells, and each tentacle of the octopus contains similarly minded experiences. I believe this entity, again the physical representation of a separate being apart from us just for ease of understanding, is where consciousness originates. He just put conscious there. We are it, and we are ourselves. We exist in this physical plane of individual experience, but outside of space-time, which is a place we can view with the help of our fungi friends we are also on. That last sentence sort of fell apart, but yeah, that's just another example of a differing, radically polar opposite perspective as to the guy above. Again, I don't know what's true. The OP actually talked about his experience of the octopus, but yes, you're a lot better putting it into words than I am. It's like in the System of a Down song Aerials, they say, one in the river and one again after the falls. Yeah, fucking love metal. Serge Tankian, who he calls Seth Tankien, is referring to the collective consciousness, and our lives are the droplets that make up the waterfall. Once these bodies are gone, our consciousness all return to the collective consciousness. I think each of these people's perspectives all have kernels of the truth, but it's missing the whole picture. What the whole picture is, again, I cannot really say, because I need to admit and have the humility to acknowledge that I don't actually know anything at all. I'm just trying to make sense of all this stuff. This is actually really fascinating Reddit post, so I won't read the rest of it because this will just go on forever, but I will link it in the comments. And I really want to start focusing on more entity contact reports, because obviously I love all the God consciousness, super insane, infinite realizations and the mystical experiences. And I guess this is a mystical experience, having going through this, but there's a different aura, a different flavor to it than the sort of 5-MeO DMT straight to the Godhead sort of stuff. So yeah, if you've ever encountered one of our octopi friends in your visionary quests, please let me know and give us a rundown of what he was saying to you, because I'm pretty interested in what my octopi friend has to say. So yeah, hope you guys are good, and I'll see you later on in the week.